Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're looking at the PMMD-64, or Machine Pistol Model 1964. And what we're looking at here happens to be the rifle that's being brought in by Century Arms, which is known as the AES10B RPK. Now, this rifle is very, very special for as far as what it is. This is probably the first, and I do believe it is the first, completely made RPK imported into the United States made in another country. Now, what we have here is a complete Romanian-made rifle, which is a special deal that was done between Century Arms and Ratmil Kujir in Romania to provide a complete RPK for the U.S. market. Now, this rifle is very, very impressive for as far as what you get. You're getting a beautiful hammer forged barrel, which is really, really, it's more modern. The original RPKs you would see, they were more of a standard type barrels, but we're looking at a more improved version of the rifle. But we'll talk a little bit about the history of this thing as well. The RPK was adopted in 1964, and it was designed to replace the RPD. The RPD is a belt-fed machine gun. Now, those of you who are who are familiar with the Marine Corps' IAR program, it's very, very similar in nature. The IAR is supposed to replace the M249 belt-fed machine gun to have a rifle that has the exact same caliber, takes the same magazines as the standard service rifle, the M4. In this case, it was the same as the AK-47. The RPD, again, belt-fed. It took belt ammunition. It would not take the standard ammunition in a magazine. The RPK was looked at as being a far more universal type rifle because you could use the same ammunition as the AK-47. You could use the same 30-round magazine, but it was designed with a 40-round magazine, as well as the drums. We have two different drums here. We have more of the Chinese version here, which has the back of the magazine opens up, and you load it from the rear, as well as a Soviet RPK magazine, which is spring-loaded, and then you load it from the top, both of which are extremely durable and reliable magazines. The problem with them is you can't really walk with them, because when you have a loaded magazine, it rattles like crazy. So this is something that you want to use in a fixed position where you wouldn't give away your position by hearing the ammunition rattle, which is also a reason for the 40-round magazine, where it's typical as any AK magazine that you don't hear anything. And when you're walking with this rifle, I would imagine you would want to be carrying one of the stick magazines versus the drum magazines because of the noise issues there. Now, RPK, I'm not even going to attempt to say it in Russian. What RPK stands for is Light Machine Gun Kalashnikov. The original RPK was designed by Kalashnikov in 1960. They first saw action in the Vietnam War, so that's where we first really saw them, was in the Vietnam War, and they were used pretty extensively, but I think you also saw a lot of the complement of the RPDs that were removed from the Soviet arsenal. When this was being replaced, you did see quite a few RPDs in the Vietnam War as well. Now, we're talking a little bit about the specs of the RPK. You're looking at general use, 1961 to present, caliber 7.62 by 39. It would use all the different types of 7.62 by 39 ammunition that were available. Now, the overall length is 40.9 inches, suck rate of 600 rounds per minute. Sight radius is what's interesting. When you look at the sights on here versus the ones that are on the standard AK, the front sights are the exact same. You're adjustable for windage and elevation. Very difficult to do your windage just due to the fact you have to have a tool to do it. Both of the rear sights are the same for as far as their elevation going out to 1,000 meters. The difference is the aperture on the rear is adjustable for windage as well as elevation. You have a knob on here. And a lot of people, myself included, would have preferred to see this sight on the AK as well to get that more fine adjustment than you have here. Now, the furniture is quite different. Now, the furniture you see on here is this blonde wood. This is way they are coming from Romania, is with this new blonde wood. That is the only complaint that I really have about this rifle. I do not like the blonde wood. In fact, the first thing I did when I got this wasser here, which is also Romanian, coming from the same plant as this one did, is I put Soviet wood on it just to make it look a little bit better. But you can see how we have a club foot on here versus a standard stock, which gives you a perch to hold when you're firing on fully automatic. You'll also notice on the front, you have a different handguard as well. This is a much more thick, built-up handguard to handle the higher, more heat, because this is more of a sustained fire weapon. So this is much more thicker. You also notice you have a carrying handle on here as well. This is unique to Romania. Romania is the only country that really puts the carrying handle on the RPK. Now, if you don't particularly like this, it's very easy just to take a Dremel tool. You can cut the weld on the left-hand side. You can pop this right off if you so chose. Magazines between both these rifles are interchangeable. The AKM will take the 40-rounder, or either one of the drums as well. As you can see in here, we have a Bakelite magazine versus the steel. This one will take Bakelite as well. Now, you look at the barrels between the two of them. You're looking at a 16.3-inch barrel on here versus a 23.2 inches. Now, when you compare the two barrel lengths, you see a very, very big difference in velocities using the same ammunition. For instance, we test fired with the Wolf ammunition, and with the Wolf ammunition, we had a muzzle velocity of 2,451 feet per second out of the AKM with a 2,540 foot per second out of the RPK. Or we also tried Hornady SST with a 2,253 foot per second versus 2,332 feet per second. So you definitely get you do get higher velocity, which will give you more range, probably an extra 100 to 200 yards worth of higher velocity, which is certainly what you'd want for a general purpose machine gun. Now we're talking a little more about the design differences between the two of them. Due to the fact that the RPK was designed as a sustained fire weapon, now, when you compare the receivers of the two, there are some major differences. Due to the fact that the RPK was designed for sustained fire and fully automatic fire as a support weapon, the receiver is thicker, the sheet metal. As you would compare it to the AKM, you're looking at 0.04 inches for the thickness of the receiver sheet metal on the AKM versus 0.06 inches for the receiver on the RPK. You can see a thicker trunnion, as you can see on the AK by the indentation in the receiver. So the receiver is all built up. Now, again, you're looking at a sustained fire weapon here versus an assault rifle, so you have to have the rifle have some modifications to make it that much more durable, that much more strong to be able to sustain that heavy rate of fire. Now, the rifle is, of course, 922R compliant with American-made trigger group, American-made op rod, and so forth. So we do definitely have a 922R compliant. Now, as this comes from Romania, and in the Century, the only thing I was really disappointed is you see what you get. There was no cleaning rod, there was no cleaning kit, there was no sling, and the cleaning rod is actually rather important on the RPK due to the fact that the bipod, as you see here, normally clamps onto the cleaning rod, as opposed to this has clamps onto a part of the front cap for the handguard, and this will come loose very, very easily. You fire this thing like this, it comes loose. I've tried a couple times firing it with it folded. So I actually went ahead and bought a cleaning rod so I'd be able to install it properly. Now the bipod on here is not what you would call the most durable thing. Certainly wasn't designed as such. So when this opens up, you have the ability to pivot as well as move back and forth with it. So it's not necessarily the most durable bipod, but it certainly is good enough for government work. Now the overall features of it, as we said, are it's the ASBS-10 specific. It does have the ugly blonde stocks, which again is something that I do plan on keeping this rifle, and I will be taking care of that thus post immediately by putting proper Romanian military stocks on it. It does have the slant muzzle brake on it. Now, this is also very unique to the Romanian. Now, this could also very well be just due to the fact that this is coming into Century. This is a Century part. This also will count towards 922R by having this muzzle brake on here, which is the basic AKM sugar scoop when you have. Now, you'll be able to see when we do some to the test firing, you'll be able to see how this does work, how this does keep the muzzle down. But it's very, very rudimentary. You can remove this. You can put on an AK-74 type or whatever you would like as well. But this is a 922R compliant part. And again, we have the Romanian carrying handle, which this is unique to Romania. The Soviet ones did not have that bipod cold hammer forged barrel. And as I said, the only little disappointment I had here was there was no sling and no cleaning rod. And when talking to the guy over at Century, he basically said they were trying to keep the cost down as much as possible. The MSRP on this rifle is $14.99. Now, you say it's relatively expensive for an AK. It is. However, what you're looking at here, you're not going to get this anywhere else. As I said, the deal between Century Arms and Romanian Ratmil Kujir, that is specific, and it's excluded only to Century Arms to bring in this, as well as the PSL rifle, which we already did a review on. And again, what makes this different? What makes this different is this is a completely Romanian-built rifle. It's a Romanian-built receiver, Romanian barrel. Those major components, are Romanian, and they're up to date too. As I said, cold hammer forged, chrome-lined, heavy barrel. So, without any further ado, we're gonna take this thing right out to the range, and we're gonna see how it shoots. Now, this rifle was shot a lot during testing. I definitely would say well over 1,500 or so rounds. We tested it with both the Soviet 75 round magazine, the Chinese 75 round magazine, 40 round magazines, 30 round magazines, and the primary ammunition that we used was the Gecko 7.62x39. Now, what this is a 7.62x39 124 grain full metal jacket, and it's brass case. It's good target ammunition. It's probably one of the higher quality. We did use a significant amount of Wolf as well. You know, Wolf obviously is what these things are designed for, and Wolf is not known for being what you would call high quality ammunition. It's not. It's a military grade round. You don't have a lot of consistency in the way that it's the velocities and whatnot. You also have a bimetal jacket on there as well, which can affect accuracy. And there's been a lot of tests that show that our bimetal jackets can have a significantly increase the wear of your barrel for as far as its longevity. However, the Gecko, a perfect full metal jacket. We had very good luck with it, as you can see from the target. Around 4 inches or so iron sights. Now, this rifle does have the scope mount on the left side, so you can put a scope on it. We didn't have a scope mount to put on it to see how it would do at longer ranges with optics. So. That's something we will be doing in the future. I do want to get a Dragunov scope for it and put it on there and see how she shoots at 100 yards. So you'll probably be seeing a follow-up review on this rifle in months to come, where I will have my proper stocks on it, that my Romanian stocks with all the other features on it, the sling, and we're going to get some review of that thing shooting at longer distance with optics. But for those of you who are interested in getting an RPK of this, I don't think I would wait. Now, I don't know exactly how many of these are going to be coming in from Romania. So as these come in, they go out. So I don't know how many. I don't think even Century does. As you know, we're always at the wits of the government for as far as whether they're going to stop importations or whatnot. But I would probably recommend you guys, if you want one of these, to get it sooner than later. The overall quality of this is excellent. It's what you would expect out of an RPK of military grade. The only one that I really ever saw that came in similar to this was pre-ban, and it was a Chinese. They called it a national match, I guess it was, and it had the same length barrel. However, the experience that I had with those was less than favorable. This is supposed to be a match rifle, and the one that we had way back then, that one you couldn't shoot without an optic on it because the front sight was so canted that you couldn't use the iron sights. You had to use an optic on it. And that was a Chinese one. And that was also not a Chinese military one. That was a Chinese commercial one and had the thumb hole stock and everything on it. That is the only other full RPK style that I ever know that came into this country. You see a lot of parts kits. You see a lot of Bulgarian, Romanian parts kits. You'll see, you can even see Soviet parts kits. They're mostly all using American-made barrels, which are going to be a good military-grade steel barrel, chrome-plated. I'm not really aware of any hammer-forged barrels there at RPK that you can buy in the U.S. However, I can't say for sure, but I'm just not really aware of any of those. Any American receivers, probably a Nodak receiver, and then you have the real wood. You'll have the American-made trigger group, American-made op rod, and many of these guns will come with American-made magazines. For instance, this one came with a Magpul magazine, so that was 922R compliance. However, we have used a lot of different magazines in them. As far as magazine compatibility was concerned, we tried many, many different magazines. We had the steel magazines. I had East German, I had Russian, I had Romanian, I had Chinese steel magazines. I had Chinese and I had Russian Bakelite magazines. I had Bulgarian polymer magazines. This one here would not take any of the American-made magazines, such as the Tapco or the ProMag, and that just happens to be very typical of a lot of the Nodak type receivers. And many of the receivers, it seems to be all the American-made magazines are slightly oversized. Many of my ARs that take AK magazines won't take those American-made magazines either. So that was the only compatibility issue I had. I don't consider that a problem with the rifle. I consider that a problem with the magazines. But we had Polish polymer magazines. What else did we have? We definitely had a really, really good number of different magazines. And it was only the American-made magazines that we had any issue with whatsoever. So overall, I definitely could not recommend this rifle any higher. This is what I'm definitely keeping. I wanted to get an RPK in my collection for quite some time, but I really didn't want a parts kit when I wanted to get an original. So I sort of held out, and it just happened to be fortunate enough that these came through. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. And as I said, you can bank on a follow-up video where we're going to put a scope on this thing and we're going to see how it shoots with this heavier barrel, longer barrel at 100 yards with some different kinds of ammunition. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.